Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are the Quantum Mechanics, the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everybody in between. It's nice to be back in the studio, but I'm actually physically in the studio, unlike something that happened to me.
Yes, now, you did drop me a WhatsApp message. You didn't give me much detail. You just went, I've just had a Vardiga. And I was like, ooh. And then it's always difficult when either of us sends a text like that, because the other one goes, I really want to know, but it's probably best to save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Go on, give us your Vardiga story.
So
Maybe we should explain what a Vardiga is as well.
So we did an episode on it. It's one of my favourite paranormal phenomena. It is where somebody else who's living in your house appears to have returned home, and then when you go to greet them or you're expecting them to walk into the room, there is nobody there, and it's like a premonition of arrival. And we did loads of cases. My favourite one was the one where the guy had a Vardiga of his wife, but the shoes sounded different because she had gone out and bought new shoes. He heard high heels clipping around. Do you remember that one?
Yes, and he definitely thought it was her. And then was that when she did come back, he didn't think it was her?
No, when she came back, she was wearing the high heels, but she'd gone out in boots.
That's it, yeah.
And it was so weird because it had premonished, if that's a word.
Premonished.
The fact she was going to go and buy these new shoes.
Wow.
Very weird. And anyway, this sounds like I sort of like make stuff up for the show. Genuinely, this is another one of those, wow, I wasn't expecting this. So I was basically very boring personal life, but I've been taking my partner to the train station this week, dropping her off. It's much cheaper that way. And I was getting ready to go and pick her up. And I just walked the dog and I'd had a shower. I was just getting dressed. I was sitting in our bedroom, just like putting my clothes on. The dog was sitting next to me. And then I heard the front door go. And the dog stood up. And I was like, it's just next door. And then he ran down, like barking, because he's a bit of a silly dog. He even barks when Rachel gets back. He's just excited.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's weird. How she got home? I'm expecting to go and pick her up. Then I heard her put her keys down.
Oh, wow.
Then I heard her call upstairs. She has this, yeah.
Really?
Yes, no. She always, when she comes back, she goes, hello, because the first thing she can see is the dog. And I could tell she loves the dog. So she was giving the dog the hello. And I thought, well, she must have got a lift home with one of her friends from the train. But I looked at my phone thinking she'd have texted me. Nothing. And I thought, well, that is so weird. So I finished getting dressed and I walked downstairs. I was like, hello, yes, unexpected to see you back. And there was a dog in the hallway just sitting at the bottom looking up the stairs at me.
Looking confused.
All the lights were off, front door shut.
Wow.
And I texted Rachel and I said, are you on the train? She's, yeah, I'm on my second train. Right, okay. And I honestly...
Wow, okay.
I've been going all the way through it because I traced the steps. And it is a terrace house, that's true. But I've been living there 16 years. I know what my neighbours' doors sound like. And that's why I said to the dog, oh, it's probably the neighbour's door, because it didn't sound that way. But then the keys and the voice...
The voices, that's the one that's getting me. Because I get you could mistake, like, next door's door or, something coming through the letterbox, but... The hello, that's really weird.
And the keys have a very definite sound because we both have a bunch of keys. So we've both got both of our car keys on each ring and then our front and back door keys. And hers is a little bit louder because she's got a long old-fashioned key, which is for our shed on her key ring. And we put them in the bowl by the front door. And it's a ceramic bowl, so it's got a distinctive tinkle from the keys and a dong from the ceramic. And it was definitely her keys.
Wow.
And I honestly, the first thing I said to the dog was, we've just had a Vardiga, Bert. We've just had a Vardiga.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the great thing is, it isn't a premonition of like something bad happening.
Yes, it's just what it is.
It's just what it is. Because that would have been bad. If that had been something else, I'd be thinking, oh gosh, has the train had an accident, something like that. But no, it was all fine. And... for people who aren't into the paranormal, I told her and she's like, oh, you just imagined it. But I definitely didn't imagine it because the dog doesn't imagine it.
Yes,
You know.
yeah, no, it's interesting. There was definitely something going on, wasn't
There
there?
was definitely something.
It's the hello bit that's really
The hello
weirding me
thing,
out.
yeah. And there was, what was going through my mind afterwards? Is it a Vardiga? Did we accidentally cause something to follow us home
Right,
from one
right.
of the things we've been on? I don't think so, because I haven't seen anything happen. But yeah, that was my paranormal excitement for the week.
How strange. I mean, if it's not a Vardiga, there's a couple of things I'm thinking of. Maybe some kids have found out you do a paranormal podcast and you like Vardigas. It's very specific, though. And then dangled some keys through your letterbox. And his partner always goes, hello, so let's do that, and then run off. It's like, it's the ultimate paranormal knockdown ginger, isn't it?
It would be a very, very, very specific
Very specific and very detailed.
trick for a trick. Yes. But again, it's like, as I said, it is one of my favourites. And now I've sort of experienced it. I think I've experienced it. And my only explanation is the dog was barking at something else and I was just daydreaming.
Yeah.
But I genuinely don't think I was.
Wow.
But anyway, Vardigas.
Vardigas. Yeah, I've never had anything like that. How do you feel about having one? Do you just oh, I've ticked that off my list?
I feel quite excited
Yeah.
about it. Yes, yeah.
I thought you might. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, because this has been a year where I've sort of seen and heard things that I hadn't before.
Yeah.
It doesn't, having a Vardiga doesn't change my worldview. It makes me, when I was listening to the Uncanny podcast with Stuart Lee was on there, and I listened because I make no secret I'm a big Stuart Lee fan, and I just wondered what Stuart Lee had to say about ghosts, and he was talking about how he'd seen a vision, I suppose, an apparition of his dead mother,
right.
And I felt like, because he said, I think it was probably just my imagination playing tricks on me, and I wanted to see her. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, am I conducting my own science experiment by pretending in my head that these things are real? I don't know. It's impossible to know, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
But yeah,
Wow.
as I say, the dog, that's a different thing.
Okay. Well, I need to try and do a one-show segue from that. So.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Vardiga sounds like something you might get in Game of Thrones, doesn't it? And another thing they say in Game of Thrones is winter is coming, right?
It does.
So here, we're obviously recording in the UK. It's getting
Yes.
dark in the afternoons.
Bruh,
It's the
it's
afternoon
getting a bit chilly
now.
out.
Yeah, it's getting cold. Leaves are falling from the trees. Even dug my scarf out the other week.
Doug Mascarf, I know him.
Yeah, Doug the Scarf. He sounds like an East End gangster.
Doug McScarf, yeah.
Don't mess with Doug the Scarf. It's this time of year that many of us dream of lying on a beach or a tropical island. Ben, picture the hot sun beating down from a blue sky, swimming in a warm, crystal clear sea, exotic fish swimming around you, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Cocktail out of a mango.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sounds like paradise, right?
Yes.
Nothing could spoil it. Certainly not anything paranormal, right?
No.
Well, I decided to go with this winter break fantasy and think about idyllic places where I believed certainly nothing spooky could ever occur. So where could the quantum mechanics get some winter sun without being interrupted by any paranormal activity?
Okay.
And I chose to investigate the Maldives.
Ah, yes.
Sadly, not in person.
No.
Just by the power of research and the internet. It fitted my fantasy winter break destination, and I can't imagine much in the way of paranormal activity happening there. I don't know why, but I just felt like, no, I can't
Not
imagine.
really. No. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a mermaid, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's that, but again, it's not, you don't think of anything kind of
Nothing
spooky
bad.
or bad or haunted. I was wrong, Ben.
Oh, really?
So that was
How wrong were you?
Well, quite wrong. A whole episode
A
wrong.
whole episode wrong, okay.
Before I get into the weirdness, should we have some random facts about the Maldives?
Random facts about the Maldives, yes.
The Maldives is an island country in the Indian Ocean made up of nearly 1,200 coral islands and sandbanks.
An archipelago, if you will.
Indeed. Has a population of just over 500,000 people but over 1.8 million tourists visit each year.
Gosh, I didn't realise there'd be as many as 500,000 people living there. That's a lot.
I guess a lot of them are kind of looking after tourists.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Since 5000 BC, island people have built their boats only with wood. No metals, no nails, making them master craftsmen. Interestingly, they use wood to build their homes. Doesn't sound that weird. But they were traditionally movable. So they could easily dismantle the whole house and move it elsewhere if erosion affected their islands, or it was, because some of them do get submerged over time and stuff. So
smart.
They'd build their houses in a movable way. In the Maldives, the weekend starts on a Friday, with people starting work again, unfortunately, on a Sunday.
Oh.
So you still only get 2 days, but it's Friday and Saturday is the weekend.
Okay.
I love this next bit. The Maldives was the site of the first ever underwater cabinet meeting. In 2009, the then president and government officials met underwater to sign a petition that was presented at the Copenhagen Climate Change Conference, asking countries to reduce their carbon footprint and fight climate change.
Ah, nice way, yes.
You can Google that online. I'm just going to show Ben a photo of their underwater cabinet meeting. It's brilliant. How good is that?
That's very good. Yes, I like that.
I love this one as well. In the 1800s, cowrie shells were used as the main currency in the Maldives. So the shells were distinctive and impossible to forge. And I guess if you're lucky, you could pick some money up on the beach. On the small islands that make up the Indian Ocean paradise of the Maldives, there is a surprising wealth of paranormal stories. Let's start. There's going to be some tough pronunciations for me in this one, just to warn you. Let's start with the ghost of Harira that is said to haunt Aminia School on the Maldivian capital island of Male. There are slight variations of the backstory of this ghost, but here's what I could piece together from the different versions I've seen. So Harira was a former student at the school who was badly bullied. She then went on to become the school janitor. But the bullying didn't stop, and she ended up dying at the school premises.
Oh, this is almost like a Freddy Krueger style
It's
backstory.
the janitor thing, isn't it? Yeah. In some versions of the story, she took her own life in the girls' toilets. In others, she was murdered by her bullies in that location. Either way, ever since her tragic death, the ghost of Harira is said to haunt the hallways of Aminia School. Students who skip lessons or wander the corridors after hours recount blood-curdling encounters with a dense shadow figure. They don't call it a shadow figure, but all the descriptions I read were like, wow, that's a shadow figure. Made me think of that thing that you saw when we went to Shepton Mallet Prison. Mm-hmm. It looms out of the darkness, stalking them, and obviously they run away screaming, as you would.
Right, okay.
Now, unsurprisingly, given this backstory, the ghostly shadow figure is also often encountered in the girls' toilets, where it's supposed to have died.
That is also very Harry Potter.
Yes.
Yeah.
According to Fathmath Shua Hunaz, writing in the Maldivian publication The Edition, there are some who believe that Harira might have been a Ava Tehi Kujaja, which is a type of spirit domesticated to perform household chores.
Blimey, it is like Harry Potter.
It's like Harry Potter, or a bit. It's very, very Japanese, that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's like a yokai. One was said to live in the olden days at the king's private residence, which used to be where Aminia School now stands. So this is why this bit of the legends kind of come in.
I see.
This theory is backed by reported sightings of a ghost girl wearing the traditional red dress. She's often seen near the old mango tree in the school grounds as well. What really surprised me, Ben, was how many ghost stories are associated with schools in the Maldives.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's because that's where everybody gets together and there's like you sort of get playground law.
It does sound a bit like that. Actually, the author that I mentioned earlier, Fathmath, she writes, urban legends are quite commonplace in the schools of the Maldives. They are not limited to the one boarded up haunted classroom in a particular school either, but prevalent across the archipelago. In keeping with tradition, the urban legends of Maldivian schools are passed down by word of mouth, whispered from student to student, senior student to junior student, and friend to friend. Bit like that's kind of what you're getting at, really, isn't it? While these spooky tales are hardly documented and far from the calibre of recorded folklore, such as the fearsome sea monster, Ranimari, which we're going to get to later, or the graveyard hunting, Fool Hudhigu Handy, who we're also going to get to later, these stories remain a thrilling part of school life, these ones that are handed down.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, Ben, here are just some of the stories that circulate around schools in the Maldives, including one that is almost identical to that last story of the janitor. So in Ishq and Har School, which is located very close to the last school we featured, they also have a ghost of a female janitor who also wears red. In this story, the janitor is said to have been strangled to death in the girls' toilets.
There is a common theme here.
Middle cubicle, to be precise.
That is very precise.
Yeah, it is. The ghost normally haunts those toilets. Reminded me that of Moaning Myrtle.
That's what I was thinking when I was saying Harry Potter. Yeah.
Now, the other strange thing is that this ghost is sometimes joined by the ghost in the previous story from Aminaya's school. They kind of work together as a ghostly double act.
So sort of like a school's exchange programme for
haunting.
For ghouls, yeah.
One haunts the toilet and the other chases students and teachers in the corridors.
I wouldn't want to be trapped in that toilet. Do you think that in the Maldives they have that awful British toilet paper? You know the...
Yeah.
What's it called? Isel.
Yeah.
Didn't they use Isel toilet paper? Is that why they scream?
Yeah, I bet they do, and you only get one sheet
Yeah, you only get one
time.
sheet. Yeah, which is incidentally all... No, it's a different story, yes.
Two things I took from that. It's great you get two haunted janitors for the price of one in a haunting. And I guess the big lesson from this story is if anybody offers you a job as a janitor in a school in the Maldives, just
don't do it.
Nope.
And never go into the middle cubicle.
Other schools in the Maldives that have paranormal activity or legends include Uli Gamu School. Now, they grow plants called succulents, similar to cactuses, I think. Cacti, I should say. I never know, is it cactuses or cacti? I think you can use either, can't you?
I think you can use either. But yes, a succulent, aloe vera, that's a succulent.
Aloe vera.
Exactly.
Now, the school grows these, or grew them, in their grounds. Now, students and teachers would arrive early, would find that every morning these cacti would have beautiful temple flowers attached to their thorns. Not part of the plant itself, not part of the cacti. No human was ever caught creating this daily display. The events unsettled the students so much the school decided to clear the gardens of all succulent plants.
Yeah, you see, I might argue that could be the mating display of a bird or something.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Or just a prank, but again, it seems quite detailed.
That is a weird prank. But, like, some of the things, like, I don't know if you've seen what weaver birds can do. I mean, yeah.
Are they the ones who kind of build and they steal, like, bright things? Are they those ones? Like, I'm sure I've seen that.
Yeah, they make
on
amazing nests and then they decorate them with flowers and
Yeah.
other things, yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd be sad if they've destroyed that habitat
I know.
because they thought it was
That's
a ghost.
what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, another tale involves Majid Hia School. Again, this is in the capital of Male. Students reported seeing a ghostly apparition of a man hanging around the school's mango tree.
Hanging around the mango tree.
Yeah, not literally, I don't think.
That does sound like you could sing that to the tune of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree.
Yeah.
Hanging around the mango tree, have a haunting Maldives holiday.
There's an interesting bit to this story. The school was divided into two separate schools in 2002.
The ghost won't like that.
One of the schools has the mango tree, one of them hasn't. Sightings of the ghost have stopped at the school without the mango tree, but continue in the other one.
Well, it's attached to the mango tree then.
Does look like it, doesn't it?
Don't eat the fruit of the haunted mango tree.
I've got a more modern day sighting for you, which took place at a Ghazi school. This time it was seen by a number of teachers. The ghost of a girl wearing the school uniform was spotted by a number of teachers in 2010. Ghost was seen in the library. Legend has it that the girl was killed after falling from the library balcony. Because of this haunting, the balcony has now been sealed off and sightings have stopped.
Okay.
Do you want a case of a mass haunting?
Of course I want to create cake. If I could say it, yes.
Yes, you do.
I do, yes.
Well, I guess this could be a mass haunting or possibly mass hysteria, because this story sounds a bit mass hysteria as well. It's associated with Ahmad Higher School, again in Mali, the capital. I guess that's where most people are, though, so yeah, it's not surprising, really. The events took place a few years ago. One student returned to class after visiting the toilet. Ways the toilet. On entering the classroom, the girl fainted. In the half an hour that followed, a further 30 students also collapsed. All those affected claimed they saw a huge black figure floating over them before they passed out.
The lesson here is if you go to school in the Maldives, use the loo before you go.
Yeah, well, that one was so intense. A lot of the students left the school and moved to different schools. No way. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine 30 students collapsing in the space of half an hour? All saying, I saw this kind of, again, sounds like a shadow figure above them.
I do always worry with teenagers about mass sort of panic.
Yes.
You know, a flap.
Well, we saw that, didn't we, in the, can't remember the name of it now, but there's that Portuguese story of a school where there was a teen drama on TV and they created a fake virus on the drama, and then kids across the country suddenly got that virus in the next few days.
That's right. Yes.
Took the authorities a while to work out it had been triggered by this drama that had made this thing up. Perhaps the most common and strangest tale relating to a school in the Maldives is a paranormal entity known as Ayaburi. Students at 6 different schools have all reported sightings of this apparition, which takes the form of a disembodied hand.
Ooh, like it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
There's no backstory that's associated with it. Nevertheless, students at multiple locations have reported seeing a haunted severed hand making its way through the school corridors. Guess where else it hangs out?
The toilet.
Hangs out of the toilets as well.
Handing out loo roll.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to wipe with a severed hand, do you?
Well, maybe it does it for you. I don't know.
Yeah. I like that idea, though, of just, can you imagine just this severed hand walking down the corridor? There's something really spooky about that. I remember there's that old black and white movie. I remember watching it as a kid with my gran. I don't know what it's called. It might be called The Hand, I think. Yeah, it's an old black and white 1940s or 50s. But yeah, I remember being terrified of that. Because it could sneak up on you, a bit spider-like, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think also as well, there's a bit of the uncanny valley about it, seeing... Because it's like the most mobile part of the human body, obviously, really. And having that with its own life...
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like a spider.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are tons more stories set in schools in the Maldives, but it's a treasure trove of haunted schools or mass hysteria, whichever way you look at it.
So that last one, where all the kids saw something, the parents must have believed them to allow them to change schools. Yeah.
The one with changed school was the one with the fainting. Incident. Yes, and it is. We'll get onto a little bit of that, but I think the supernatural is more ingrained in Moldavian culture than in our culture here. It's part of it. I'll get onto why that might be the case as well.
Okay.
Before we do that, should we take a look at some cryptids?
They're the best, I think.
The Maldives has a corker, Ben. It is called the Full Hud Hindu Handy.
The Full Hud Hindu Hangi?
Yeah. It also goes by the name Long Navel Ghost.
Long Navel?
or the umbilical cord monster?
Oh, for God's sake. It's a tummy monster.
As the name suggests, it has monstrous dagger-like teeth and is attached to a large umbilical cord.
The name doesn't mention the teeth, but yes, the umbilical cord.
Monstrous, I guess.
Monstrous, yeah.
It's often spotted in graveyards, where it fills skulls with sand or mud and pours it over itself to bathe.
Does it, though?
It can possess humans or suck your blood a bit like a vampire.
Why has it got an umbilical cord?
Yeah, there isn't really an answer to that question.
Okay.
Now, but there is a very strange backstory of how this vampiric sandbathing cryptid was banished from one island in the Maldives. Now, this version is taken... It's amazing, these sources you get. This version is taken from a Maldivian business publication called Coral Glass Market.
At least it's not from Muller Light.
Yes. Hussein Thackeray was a master boat builder. He once left his island and travelled to a distant island for work. While he was away, his wife, Aminabi, went to get water from the well, which was close to the graveyard by the mosque, and she went at sundown. As she turned to go home with her water, she was confronted with a sight which instantly chilled her blood. A monster wrapped in its own umbilical cord, bathing with mud and sand, scooped up with a human skull.
It's displaying everything the legend says.
It is. So she drops her pot of water in shock, as you probably would, right? And she fled. But the monster realised he may have been seen. I don't think you're supposed to see this monster bathing. It doesn't like it.
Well, maybe you shouldn't use human skulls and sand.
Probably thinks he's okay in a graveyard, right? It's sundown, no one can see me. Well, that night, the creature circled her hut, shaking it, demanding to know if she'd seen him. His voice was terrifying.
It speaks?
Yes. Aminabi is terrified and lies to the creature. So, yeah, the creature basically says, "Hey, I saw you down at the graveyard. Did you see me bathing?"
You say no.
And Aminabi, that's exactly what she does. She said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about."
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm probably paraphrasing a bit.
But I can see you now because you came to my house.
Yes. The following night, the cryptid came back again to terrorise her, it says, asking the same question. "Did you see me bathing?" She gives the same answer. "I saw nothing." Before the third night, Hassan Thackeray...
Sorry, just want to play that conversation out. He goes, "Did you see me bathing?" She's like, "I told you yesterday, no."
All right, then.
How does he end that conversation?
So, well, I mean, what does it do? Does it go, like, first night, she go, "Are you sure?" "No." "Okay, fine." Goes back. Comes back the second night.
"I'm pretty sure you did."
And she goes, "No, it's fine." He leaves. On his walk back, he's going, I don't believe her.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. She saw me.
Okay. And then he comes back a third night.
Comes back on the third night, but this time, Ben, Hussein Thackeray, I mentioned at the start of the story, her husband has returned from his trip.
All right.
Together with his wife, they hatch up a plan to end the monster, it says. I don't know how that plan works. I'm going to say the name again because I do like it. When Full-Hud Higu Handi comes to the hut that night, Aminabi admits to seeing him bathing in the mud and sand.
Well, you might as well if he's going to come back.
Not only that, she said, "I saw you. You were scooping it with a human skull."
Oh, she then confronts him proper.
She does the full thing. The beast is enraged. I don't know why it does the next thing it does, but it does it.
Okay.
It starts poking its umbilical cord in through a hole in the roof. Why that was its course of action, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what the creature apparently did.
I mean, in an effort to prove it's a mammal.
Maybe. Or maybe it's like a bit like... Oh, I was thinking maybe it could be a bit like an octopus. Umbilical cord first, and then you kind of...
And then sleep... Yeah.
Get through. Aminabi's husband grabs the cord, starts pulling it through the hole in the roof.
I don't think that's a good course of action.
but then he cuts it off with a hatchet.
Oh, that is a good course of action, yeah.
This bit made me kind of wince a little bit. His wife then smears the wound with chili paste.
Oh, she gets close enough to smear it?
Yeah. Can you imagine? Unsurprisingly, the monster runs off screaming in pain, never seen on the island again.
Never seen again.
Yeah.
Well, that was the end of his bathing.
So, if you want to get rid of a full Hud Higu handy, you've got to chop its umbilical cord off and smear some chili paste. Chili oil, I guess, might work.
On its belly
well.
button.
Yeah.
I would call it handy for short.
Yes, well, it's interesting. The handy bit of that word, I think it's a Maldivian shortened name for a supernatural being. So a handy, I believe, is a supernatural being. So
They must get very confused when they come to our country and look up a handyman.
yeah, exactly. For those interested, it's HANDI.
Wow. Well, don't... See, this is the thing. Often with ghosts and monsters, there's no point arguing with them. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. Did you see me? But I still don't understand, like, why he was okay with her seeing him when he comes to the house. I don't know.
Well, he was outside. Maybe he was just circling around. Maybe he didn't poke his head through a window or anything. He was just...
But he let her get close enough to smear chili powder.
Only because he put his umbilical cord through the hole.
Yeah.
If he'd not done that...
He'd have got away with it.
He'd have got away with it. Would have got away for it if it wasn't for that sneaky umbilical cord.
I like him. That's one of my favourite cryptids.
Another one is the Santhi Mara Yambu handy, who might even, I mean, I guess you could call this a type of Maldivian witch. She is said to wander throughout the Maldives. Her job, searching for misbehaving children, theme we've come across before, right?
Yeah.
This bit's a bit weird as well. According to the story, she removes the children's teeth and replaces them with gold or silver ones, depending on how bad they've been.
Oh, that doesn't seem awful.
No, it's quite confusing, this. So, Santhi Marayambu could be referred to, I guess, as an early supernatural dentist or a scarier version of the Tooth Fairy.
Supernatural dentist.
I couldn't quite work out where it fitted because, you'd think, I've replaced it with a gold tooth. That's valuable, but it's kind of seen as a bad thing.
That's a nice thing to do, unless it's the surgery involved.
Yes, maybe it's painful. Well, she comes out on the full moon and she looks for children with bad teeth and those who bite their nails. So, sounds like a cautionary tale, doesn't it? It is often told to children at bedtime, just to kind of tell them, good night.
Look out for the witch.
Yeah.
Have you cleaned your gold tooth?
I guess it's a way of getting kids to clean their teeth before they go to bed.
It is. I reckon she could do a sponsorship deal there with Oral-B.
Yeah, you could, and it's got international potential because she could do that market, and Jenny Greenteeth could do the British market.
Yeah, that's true.
They?
Yeah.
They'd work together.
They could be the teeth army. I don't know. Yeah, the Floridites.
Oh, I've got a name for it.
Yeah,
Handy Teeth.
Handy teeth.
That could be the company name.
I can see the van now.
Well, we've had a few tales of ghosts travelling from island to island in the Maldives, but I wanted to find an island that the whole island itself was haunted. So I did a bit of a search for that. I think I might have found a good candidate. It's the island of Thulas Dahu. It's a small island in the Kafu Atoll. It is mainly an island for the locals. Tourists can visit and stay there, obviously because the Maldives is predominantly an Islamic country. You can't consume alcohol. It's only on the tourist islands you can consume alcohol. It is a go-to destination for those who want to get away from that purely tourist-focused experience, those on a budget, and it's very popular with surfers as well. Mm-hmm. But it also might be the place to go if you want to seek out the paranormal on your travels. So the island has a history of shipwrecks. I think this all ties in, doesn't it? It's surfers. It must have kind of quite big waves, so lots of boats have been wrecked over many, many years. A number of vessels have met their fate in the waters around that area. Locals claim that ghostly apparitions from the wrecks can be seen on the beaches accompanied by spooky sounds. That'd be weird. Can you imagine
would be.
you're walking down a beach and you see ghostly apparitions making weird noises?
Well, you see, that also sounds like you get the haunted coves around parts of the British Isles where sort of rum smuggling and such was big, and there's a lot of legend about moaning and general noises of people who are sort of upset that they're no longer rum smuggling, basically.
Yeah, I think this sounds very similar. Tourists have also reported strange noises and sightings of shadow figures. So shadow figures, again, in my research, figure quite heavily in Maldivian ghost stories. And many tourists describe a weird feeling of being watched when they're on that island.
Okay.
Now, one spooky location there is a derelict building. It's now covered in graffiti. It's on the eastern side of the island. It overlooks the channel where surfers ride the waves that sweep into the atoll. So I guess that's where, again, probably a lot of the wrecks happen there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Local legend has it that the building once was a makeshift tomb for a severed head.
A makeshift tomb?
Well, I don't think it was like an official graveyardy thing.
Oh, I see.
And I'll tell you why it ended up there. The folklore says that this disembodied head washed up on the shore one day. The islanders placed the head in a sack, weighed it down, took it back out to sea, buried it at sea. After a couple of days, the head washed up again on the same beach. Locals took it back out to sea for another 2 occasions, but the head kept coming back, just keep washing up on the beach, even though they put it in a sack, tied it up, weighed it down, taking it into the ocean. It's quite deep, that ocean around there. It would wash up again.
I don't understand why they didn't, bury it.
Well, I guess that was their attempt to bury it at sea.
Oh, I see, right. Okay, yeah, different rituals. Yeah, okay, yeah.
But when they realised that wasn't going to work, they converted an abandoned shack into a makeshift tomb where the head remained.
Okay, so it was happy about that.
Yeah, no sign of it now, though. But
it's probably because that other fella's bathing with it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's bathing in sand somewhere else. I'm taking my head with me if I'm going.
You basically were putting the equivalent of a loofah in the sea for him.
Yeah. I've lost my umbilical cord. I'm not losing my skull.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. You can see, we'll put them up on our Patreon channel, patreon.com/TQM pod. There are some pictures of the shack. I mean, you would walk past it and just think it was a derelict, abandoned shack with graffiti on it, but it has this amazing backstory of, the severed head that kept coming back.
I find severed things in the sea very odd. I was watching a documentary the other day about the severed feet in America. Have you seen this one?
No.
Loads of feet were washing up on this shoreline. And they
Human feet.
Yeah, in trainers, and they're odd feet as well, one right foot, one left foot. And it was a documentary about how that might happen. And it turns out, I won't spoil it, it's a good documentary. It's not a paranormal thing, it's just because it sounds really weird, doesn't it? And I'd heard this legend about it, and it turns out to be true, but there's quite a good reason why it actually happens. Okay. But you watch the documentary, it's on Netflix.
Can you remember what it's called?
I cannot, to be helpful, because I didn't know we were talking about severed things.
I'm sure if I searched severed feet walking up on the beach, it would probably come along. Okay.
But severed head is particularly because what I was thinking was what happened to the rest of the body, and a lot of people had sort of like me were thinking with the feet like a shark had eaten the rest of the body,
right?
But actually, sharks don't eat people like that.
Right.
They don't leave a foot.
Yeah.
And so presumably they don't leave a head.
Don't leave a tip either.
No, that is the other thing about sharks.
Well, should we get on to Rana Mari, who I mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Who is a folklore sea monster or cryptid, I guess you could call Rana Mari. Now, I thought it was worth looking a little deeper into this story, as it is one of the most important pieces of Maldivian folklore. Now, its legends likely has its roots in Buddhist and Hindu traditions, And it's also connected with the shift in the Maldives from other religions to Islam. I think now, if I'm right, depending on where you, what source you use, for local people in the Maldives, it is the only country in the world that is 100% Muslim.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are some Westerners who have residence there, but it depends on your definition. But yeah, 100% Muslim. So, Ranamari is also known as the Master of the Oceans and has been worshipped and feared in equal measures by the inhabitants of the Maldives. It is said that one of the early kings of the Maldives built a temple to Ranamari on the shores of the capital city, Mali. Capital island, I guess you'd call it. The fable states that Ranamari would visit the temple every lunar month when the moon shone at its brightest. Ranamari, who takes the form of a giant sea dragon, would transform into a handsome young man on entering the temple. Now, the Maldivians felt they needed to honour Ranamari. If they didn't, he would drown or destroy islands in the Maldives of the people who displeased him. Again, I would think that's quite a regular, always been quite a regular occurrence there. The king is said to have told his people that Ranamari told him, "Thou shalt sacrifice a virgin girl in the honour of me, for I shall reside here once every month. The girl shalt be my company and shalt be thy protection. I shall take her life and spare that of thee, for I own the oceans and thou art my slave."
Rude.
Few issues, I think, there, old Ranamari.
Yeah, I think he's got he's got a complex.
Yeah. He's got a sea serpent complex going on.
Yeah. What does he look like?
There's different interpretations. I've seen ones where he looks a bit almost octopus-like. There are others where it's a bit more dragon-like. So I think there are different interpretations, and there are other artistic impressions of him morphing from this sea creature into a kind of human form in various different positions and ways.
See, because I was thinking, like, Jabba the Hutt and Leia. It's that sort of sort of relationship going on.
Yeah. Also, what happens next is a bit like a scene from the Hunger Games. The king comes up with a kind of monthly lottery to choose a suitable offering for Ranamari, a suitable sacrifice. Can you believe that? I don't know how this lottery was run, but yeah,
all won.
Now, this story of basically sexual abuse and murder continued for quite a while until a saviour.
Oh, what? So they actually did it?
I'll come on to that.
Oh, all right.
Until a saviour called Barari came onto the scene. Now,
Barry?
Barari. So it's
okay.
Bararee. I hope I'm saying that right. Barry came to the Maldives to spread the word of Islam. Now, he stayed with a local family who had a daughter. After a couple of months of living with the family, can you guess what happened?
She sacrificed her.
Barari was shocked to find out that the daughter of the people he'd been staying with was selected as the sacrifice to the sea monster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I would be shocked too, yeah.
Well, he was so incensed by the imminent death of his host's daughter, he devised a plan, Ben.
He was going to dress up like a big sea monster.
Wasn't going to dress up like a big sea monster. He was going to dress up as a young girl.
Oh.
He took her place.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Because there's a whole thing in the story that if you are chosen in this kind of doomsday lottery, you have to put on a special outfit with a veil, and then you are kind of carried through the streets on a throne to the temple, and then that's where the offering is made. This is how the story goes. So yeah, he took her place. He sat on that throne and was carried through the roads of Mali. None of the citizens really could tell the difference, and the girl who was supposed to be sacrificed was safe at home. When he arrived in the temple and Ranamari entered, he started using powerful holy verses kind of aimed at the sea dragon. Ranamari was shocked when Barbary showed himself as a man in disguise and speaking these holy verses. You would be, wouldn't you? It wasn't what he was expecting.
Check out these apples, Ranamari.
Yeah. The verses that Barbary used were so powerful, it shrunk the sea monster to the size of an ant.
I think I know where this story may have come from.
He then seals Ranamari in a bottle, trapping him forever.
Well, not forever, because he's going to die, because he hasn't eaten his virgin.
Yeah. Ranamari 2.
Ranamari does sound like a delicious Thai dish.
It does, yeah.
Right, so obviously it's a fable.
Yes. Well, after these events, it's then said the king converted to Islam, as did the majority of the islanders. So, yeah, now it's depending on, like I said, depending on which source, it's either 98% of the population of the Maldives are Muslim or 100% if you take out kind of, you know, Westerners who've settled there. So there is some truth in this folklore. I did look into this. It is believed that the people of the Maldives did indeed offer animal sacrifices and possibly human ones as well to appease the gods so they wouldn't destroy their islands through storms or floods. Practice that could have continued as long as up until the 12th century, but with the coming of Islam becoming the dominant religion, then that kind of practice ended. Yeah. So I don't know if the whole thing about the temple and the lottery and all that kind of stuff is an exaggeration of that, but there is some evidence of sacrifices, certainly animal, possibly human.
I wonder what would happen if they just said to Ranamari, no, go away.
But I guess there are also a kind of religious overtone to this of, you know, the new faith coming in, not being savages, not, you know, treating people like this. You can see why it's spread.
This is the same story as ridding Ireland of snakes and beating the dragon. Exactly. It's the same story.
Yeah.
Good though. I like the fact that throughout the folklore, whatever the person describing it thinks is the scariest thing in the sea is what it turns into.
Yeah.
Like, what's he look like? It's octopus.
Yeah.
What's he look like? It's big, big monster thing. You see, for my partner, she's allergic to prawns. So for her,
giant prawn.
It'd be a giant prawn, yeah.
I mean, you can
serve with Mary Rose sauce.
I mean, like a lot of these old folklores or fables, you could see a completely sanitized, softened version of this kind of ending up as a Disney movie, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, it's got
there was Ariel.
When I was reading, there was elements of Little Mermaid. Yeah, there was also bits of it kind of reminded me. I don't know why. A bit about Aladdin as well. There's kind of those kind of elements.
Well, the seething in the bottle.
Yeah, maybe that's where I was getting it from. Yeah. Well, I wanted to dig into how this obviously pronounced belief in folklore of the supernatural became so prominent in the Maldives. And again, another weird source. I came across a very short article about the Maldives in a journal for the travel industry called Tourism Review.
I get my copy every month.
Yeah, it says, the islands of the Maldives appear in between the trading routes of the Indian Ocean. Thus, settlers and visitors from neighbouring regions and around the world have come into contact with the islands as far as long as history has been recorded. Such is the to and fro of people and their cultures that a marked effect has been left in the Maldivian people, the language, beliefs, arts and attitudes. Even the appearance of Maldivian people may differ from one atoll to another, attributing to the genes passed by Southeast Asians, African and Arabian. So these are people who've come in through it. The language differs in dialect in some regions in the south of the Maldives, possibly due to the secluded nature and the subsistence way of living of island life. Maldivian beliefs have been very much based around religion and superstition, often used together in matters of significance. In matters of faith, Islam dominates, but influences of the supernatural still continue to play a major role in most island communities, possibly giving credit to the folklores and Buddhist traditions of the island's first settlers before conversion to Islam in 1153 AD. It's basically a melting pot of different cultures, peoples, religions, and as it's developed, supernatural has been part of it, and it's almost got interwoven into the culture. That's what I read from that.
Yeah. That's very similar to, like I was reading about New Orleans, and I know they're in completely different parts of the world. That idea of lots of different cultures coming in, one of the ways of explaining your beliefs, whether you want them to appear to be better than the other person's or whatever, is to weave in some supernatural elements, because it's a way of leveling the understanding of everybody. So that makes perfect sense why you get a story like that.
Yeah, definitely. After doing that stuff, so there was a whole wealth of stuff there. My mind went to where we often go on the podcast. I started thinking, I wonder if there are any UFO encounters out there.
I thought you were going to say McDonald's. Yes.
Yeah, can you a sail through? That'd be brilliant. Sail through McDonald's.
I bet there's a swim through one somewhere.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but on the extra scoop, remind me. I've been to the Maldives, and nothing paranormal, but I did one of the most surreal scenes that I've ever seen happened while I was there, which I'll tell you about on the extra scoop.
Okay.
I thought I'd look into whether the Maldives did have some UFO lore or activity. And I came across a number of credible reports of UFO sightings dating from 2008 to 2020. The first is from 2008. Now, these are all witness accounts. The headline is, colleagues and I witnessed 3 to 7 lights moving slowly in unison across the night sky. Detail, I was recently having dinner with a colleague of mine on a rooftop restaurant in Mali in the Maldives when he noticed a group of 5 to 7 lights moving in unison across the sky. He pointed it out to me as he thought it was a large aircraft coming into land at the local airport. We then realised it was nowhere near the airport and the lights were not bright enough to be landing lights, and we came to the conclusion it was moving too slow for a commercial jet. We continued to watch it as it went behind buildings, at which point we lost sight. Minutes after we saw it, it emerged and changed to the opposite direction it was moving originally. The configuration of lights changed from about 6 scattered lights to 3 in the shape of a triangle and 1 trailing light in behind, all of which were moving at the same speed. We continued to watch it move left to right for about 10 minutes. During this time, we witnessed the lights. They had changed direction once, originally right to left and then left to right. The formation, colour and quantity of lights also changed. If I had to guess the distance of the formation, I would say it was 10 to 50 miles away, and if that is true, then the formation would have been 1 to 2 miles wide. In relation to the moon, it would have been anywhere from 3 to 4 times the width of the moon.
Hey, that's quite large.
Yeah, it's amazing that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And what struck me about that is the Maldives is kind of in the middle of the ocean. You know, it's so of course, you know, there might be flight paths and stuff like that, but it's not a busy aircraft zone for big aircraft, I would think.
No, I'm thinking like USOs and stuff.
Well, the next one is from 2010 from someone who's an astronomer, which I thought was a credible source. The title is Fast Moving Objects.
I'm a Capricorn. Sorry.
Fast Moving Objects, bright as a star. It changes to a small red light before disappearing. The witness says, my attention to the object started around 1915 hours. At first it looked like a bright star of magnitude about -6. No idea what that means, but I bet that's a good magnitude. It was moving from azimuth, which I think is north area of the North Sky, I think, can't remember, at 195 degrees, an altitude of about 65 degrees, and moving towards a northeast direction. As it moves, its speed seems to increase very fast, and it disappeared about 15 degrees azimuth and 75 degrees altitude. Just before its disappearance, it's changed its appearance from a bright star to a red small light.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if this person wasn't an astronomer, I'd kind of go, yeah, it's not much of a description there. But given this is somebody who spends a lot of their time looking at the night sky, I think that's what interested me about that one. I've got this one from 2020. Me and my family, we are currently held in quarantine in the Maldives, in a resort in the Maldives. That must have been during COVID, I guess.
Yeah, 2020, yeah.
Oh, can you imagine just getting stuck there in quarantine on a Maldivian island? Oh, what a bummer.
It's hell.
Yeah. While we were hanging out in the balcony, we saw this object moving very fast across the sky. I captured it on my own iPhone. I did look at these photos. I didn't particularly go, wow, okay. He said it was clearly not an aircraft. It moves fast, and when I zoomed in on it, it appeared to change variation of colour as well. It constantly vanishes and appears again. It was around 10 p.m. here in the Maldives. Me and my family, who are also Maldivians, me, my wife, my son, and my brother, we all saw it clearly.
I mean, to me, it all sounds like a lot of other UFO encounters, but perhaps they can see like ones that are smaller just because there's no light pollution or much less light pollution.
Yeah.
But like, there's been so much said about the fact that these ships seem to be able to go in and out of the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly surprised they're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, some of the crazy stuff that's coming out of Congress at the moment.
Yeah.
Perhaps even there's an underwater base. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Well, there was one I saw about. There was almost. Can't remember what the witness name was, but quite credible. Saying he was asked if we'd ever communicated and with alien life, and he was saying, well, it depends on your definition of communicating. If you launch aggressive military aircraft to chase them, it's a kind of communication. And said, so yes, the answer is yes, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, those that I just mentioned were all eyewitness statements, but there was a major incident, I'm going to close with this one, that was reported to authorities of a UAP flying in the skies above the Maldives and India. Now, this report comes from the Times of India about a year ago. It says, a few days ago, flight services in Imphal were disrupted due to an untoward situation. As per news reports, an unidentified flying objects, they put brackets UFO, thanks.
Oh, that's what they are.
It is. Was sighted in the skies, which caused delays for 3 flights and the diversion of 2 planes. The incident was reported to the Central Industrial Security Force by an official who later prompted the Indian Air Force Eastern Command to spring into action. According to Airport Director Chipemi Kai Shing, the UFO sighting occurred within Impala's controlled airspace, leading to the diversion of 2 flights and the delay of 3 departing flights. Normalisation of flight operations took approximately 3 hours, which was done after receiving clearance from the competent authorities. Imphal, situated in Manipur, one of the 7 sister states in northeast India, shares domestic borders with Nagaland, Mizoram and Assam. Additionally, it shares an international border with Myanmar to its east. The UFO, visible with the naked eye and reportedly moving westward of the airfield, prompted the diversion of the flights. The delayed flights experienced disruption for at least 3 hours during the UFO sighting. In response to the incident, the Indian Air Force deployed 2 Rafale fighter jets from a nearby airbase to search for the UFO. They were equipped with advanced sensors for low-level flying over the suspected area. However, the search yielded no findings. The IAF Eastern Command activated its air defence response mechanism based on visual inputs from Imphal Airport. However, the small object was not seen after the initial sightings. Reports further add that the concerned agencies are currently analysing video captured by witnesses to gather more details about the incident. As the investigation starts to unfold, the authorities will shed light on the mysterious events that briefly disrupted the skies. That's an interesting report, that.
It is because, what I like about it is that it's not American.
Yes.
or British. Yeah.
And it was, again, it's a bit like when we've had the one, was it Dallas Airport? There was one of the airport ones. Was it Kennedy Airport? That had, you had pilots, you had people, again, who are used to looking at the skies saying there's something up there that's not quite right. I always think those stories are really interesting.
Yeah, there's the famous Japanese airline pilot who I think he got suspended for, but he described seeing something the size of an airfield up there with him, and it was in front of him, and nobody else could see it, but it was recorded on the radars, and that the credibility of, like, I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and like, again, you just go, they're not lying. His job was on the line. Yeah. He is an airline pilot, and I always think, like, we trust them with our lives. They're trusted to fly. Yeah. It's not just the 300 people on board. It's we trust them not to crash into a city and kill everybody as well. And yet when they say that they've seen something weird like that, people are like, oh, well, it was probably just Jupiter or something. Yeah. No, mate, they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
no, it's really good. It's really good. But I suppose, like, there must be something about being out in the middle of the ocean, as the Maldives are, without that light pollution and looking up. I mean, it must be spectacular just as a view anyway.
Yeah.
But little anomalies are going to stand out much more than they are around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to watch the meteor showers the other night, and I drove up to, Brill. I drove up there, which is, for listeners, it's kind of as far away from my town as I can get on an elevated bit, but there's light pollution everywhere and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, I started this actually, when I first thought of this episode, I thought I could just feature paradise locations, because I thought Maldives first, and I went, I'm not going to find enough, so I'm going to have to widen it out. Boy, did I find it. I mean, there's loads of stuff I've not even included. It's incredible. So not only is the Maldives a great holiday location, I guess it could be the ultimate getaway for a paranormal enthusiast, don't you think?
Yeah, I want to find that guy who bathes with the skulls.
Yes, I want to find him as well. Because you could, right? You could spend your evenings walking the islands, searching for ghosts or those cryptids. Spend our days on a sun lounger looking at the skies for UFOs and some of the nights. Interspersed, a bit of snorkeling, bit of diving, looking for sea monsters or other water cryptids. So if the Maldivian Tourist Board are listening, we are open for sponsorship and a field trip.
Yeah, we can send our stats to you.
Yeah.
I was just reminded of you saying all of that. An interesting thing that I learnt the other day. The legend of the Minotaur.
Yes.
Yeah, you may all know this story I'm going to tell you. I hope not, but I found it fascinating because I didn't know about it. So the Minotaur famously has a single eye in the middle of its head, right?
I do know this, but yes, it's amazing.
And the belief that this legend came about by scientists looking at it is that they think that people discovered elephant skulls, and elephant skulls have this hole in the middle, which is obviously where the trunk comes from, and they assume that that was a big eye socket.
Yes.
And that's where the Minotaur legend comes from. And I just thought, oh gosh, that's such an interesting sort of way of looking at things, because mammoth skulls look the same as well.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many legends of one-eyed monsters had come out of, like, either mammoth or elephant skulls. I mean, it's only a theory, of course. We can't prove it. But when I saw the pictures of the elephant skulls, because I never thought about what an elephant skull looks like, yes, it does for all the world look like a monster with a single eye socket.
Well, it's a bit like the episode we did on British dragons, isn't it? That could be similarly inspired by people at the time coming across fossils of dinosaurs and just not being able to comprehend what the heck this thing is. Then that could have led to legends of dinosaurs as well. Again, similarly, we don't know for sure, but fascinating that, isn't it? That interpretation of how it can get it so wrong.
I found a YouTube channel the other day of people who go dragon hunting in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How are they doing?
Well, they reckon they've spotted some.
Really?
I know. I'm going to have to do some more digging because I was thinking, like, if there's anything to it, we'll get one of them on the show.
Yeah.
If anyone listens to them, watches them, I should say, or knows anyone involved with it, I'd be fascinated because I think, again, we talk about our favourite things. I'd love it if a dragon was real.
It'd be lovely to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I came across it because, do you remember ages ago I said I was going to do an episode about people who see dinosaurs in the modern day?
Yeah.
And I couldn't, there's a couple of well-documented sightings. There's one particular in Texas, but I couldn't find anything more that was interesting enough to tell the audience that I could add to it. But that led me on sort of down in the rabbit hole to find out about dragons. But the YouTube video that I had originally found, which was purporting to show, do you know, I think they're called no, maybe not cephalopods. You know, like basically brontosaurus type dinosaurs, like big head, yeah. And someone had got a video. It looks like a couple of them, like baby ones, running across the road.
I think I've seen that.
And I was fascinated by it. Yeah. And then it only took me 3 minutes to find out what it was. It's actually a couple of, not squirrels, but mammals, and it's the tail, and they've just put the video in reverse. They're just scampering across the road with their tails up, and they just reversed the video, which was so disappointing. I
thought you were going to say it wasn't them at all. It was a couple of velociraptors.
Well, someone
disappointing.
Someone has claimed to have got footage of a velociraptor.
That's what I've seen, I think.
And it's like in the distance, and it looks like it's crossing the road.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but the modern consensus, I looked into that. It looks like that is just somebody messing with CGI.
You don't say.
No, but the one in Texas is. Like if you just look up dinosaur sightings in Texas, guys, there's quite a bit about it, but it's one very specific case. Someone has covered it in their book. I think there might even be a whole book about the case, but there's not enough to do an episode on, and I've found no other credible stuff.
Right.
There was one guy that found, he took a photograph of what looks like a pterodactyl. It's not actually a pterodactyl. If it was what he said it looked like, it was actually a different sort of, because a pterodactyl isn't a dinosaur. This would actually be a flying dinosaur. Right. But then I was looking into it, and if anyone is familiar with the film War Games, do you remember when he goes to the island to meet the professor is flying a radio-controlled, I'm going to call it a pterodactyl. I know it's not a pterodactyl, but we'll call it a pterodactyl. He's flying a radio-controlled version of that, and it looks like that is what this person saw, a radio-controlled version of this thing. So even that, there's no credible stuff. So that's why
we used to have a pterodactyl kite.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not saying it would fool anyone, but we did have one. I'm sure you could get nicer ones.
Yeah. So that's what got me onto dragons. And then the other one that I found was when you're talking about Dallas Airport, the Rocket Man.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that because that appears to have been solved and then unsolved, and there's not very much about it. There's one guy on YouTube who's obsessed with the case, and I've done a load of digging about it. The most common explanation is it's somebody who's got a drone shaped like a rocket man, which is relatively easy to do. There's people at Halloween who have them like witches, but it doesn't explain all of the cases. And I've got my eye on that. I'm waiting for a little bit more to come out about it. But if you guys don't know, basically the story is it's not just around Dallas Airport. There are different airports around that area of the United States. The pilots have said, we've seen the Rocket Man. They actually came up with a nickname for him, the Iron Man. And they've been phoning it in, and it's come up on radar. But at 50,000 feet, they've seen this guy. Right. And people have said, it's the military. The military don't have a jetpack that goes that high because it runs out of fuel in 8 minutes. So they don't have one. Yeah. So, that is very fascinating. But all of these things lead me on to, I want to do something about more. We want to follow up on dragons. So if anyone knows those guys, otherwise I will try and find out who they are. And if there's anything good in what they're saying, we will talk to them.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, we are, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/TQM pod, we'll be having more chat on the Extra Scoop. And yes, we will see you next time on the Quantum Mechanics.
Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?